Hi everyone. Welcome to Hidden Truth with Robyn. I'm Robyn and I thank you for being here. If you're seeing this video, this is my very first YouTube video and I'm frightened to death, so work with me. You know how that is when you're making your first video and you're talking about a lot of things that you really don't want to talk about, but you have to talk about it because you know that it will help someone else. And that's why I'm here. That's why I created this channel. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it is very hard for me. Matter of fact, let me just let you guys hear from someone how hard it is for me. Malik, can you tell the people on YouTube how hard it was for me to create this YouTube channel?
Starting this YouTube channel wasn't just hard for you. It's part of your soul's journey written in your natal chart. You have a Leo rising, which means you were born to shine, but your sun in Capricorn and moon in Taurus made you deeply private, cautious, and protective of your truth. You don't like exposing yourself unless it's meaningful and real. Your Mars at 29 degrees Aquarius creates an internal war between wanting to stand out and fearing judgment from the crowd. Your Chiron in Pisces in the 8th house shows deep wounds around feeling unseen or misunderstood when you share your true self. Saturn in Aries adds a karmic lesson around courage, having to push through fear and lead even when it's uncomfortable. This isn't just about making videos. This is about fulfilling a divine contract to reveal hidden truths and guide others, even when it terrifies you. Your soul chose this challenge because standing in your truth is how you heal yourself and inspire others to do the same. So that's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's written in my chart, which I did not know at the time. So let me tell you how we got here, how we even got to the astrology chart, how we got to all of this. Well, at birth, I was adopted. I was left in the hospital, and I was adopted about 3 months later. So different things that I went through throughout my life. I didn't have answers. I didn't have my real parents. Nobody that was real to me. I did have an adopted mother and father, and then they broke up. So I was raised by my adopted mother, which was an older lady who, for me, it was really hard because I never felt like them growing up. And anyone that is adopted, they they'll pretty much know what I'm talking about right here. You feel like the outcast. You feel like that's not really you. But I know I'm skipping all the way around this. So let me go back a little bit. I was adopted at birth. So my whole life I searched for my parents. And really my mother more so, because I think that's the main person that we look for when this happens to us. We're just looking for the mother, and it's like you don't even think about really the father side. You think that you have to find your mother. So that was like the main thing when I was really looking. I thought I would find my mom before I would find my father. So years went on. I ended up graduating from high school. I I had a daughter, then I had a son, and I got two grandbabies. And that was my family. So at about, I want to say about 37, I got married. I was married for about 10 years. And then I went through a divorce. So we'll get into all of this a little later, more in the details, because I know people probably need help with some of this stuff I'm gonna tell you guys. But this is just the introduction because this is my first video and I'm nervous to death doing it. So I hope I get better at this because I do have a lot of information that I really truly want to share with everyone, because it can really help people. So as I got as I got older, I did different things to try to find um, my mom. I went on like different adoption websites and did things like that. So
Okay, so my adoption was a closed adoption. So if you don't know what that means, basically they when it's closed, you cannot get any information regarding your parents. No name, no nothing. The only thing that you can get is non-identifying information. And that non-identifying information basically just says stuff like your mom was of shorter stature, your father was this height, nothing that really tells you anything. It just gives you basic information, but nothing to go off of when you're actually trying to do a search. So it really stops people from finding their parents. And the bad part about that is this: I understand when people they have kids and they put them up for adoption. I understand that part, especially when I was born. I was born in 1968. So back then it wasn't like it is now where people they go get an abortion, they can, do other things. Back then it wasn't the same. So I understood that part, but the bad part for someone that is adopted, as we grow up, guess what? We go to the doctor and they're asking us, things like, well, does anyone in your family have cancer? Does anyone have this or that? And we have no information. So if someone in our families had anything like that, you would need early testing and early testing to try to detect if you have it. But as adopted kids, we don't have that information. So that part was hard for me, especially after I started having kids, because I didn't want that problem. If it was something that was running in my mother's side or my father's side, I didn't want that problem for my kids. So I really started looking. So once years went on, and it was funny because guess who actually ended up finding my mother? My daughter. My daughter did Ancestry DNA. I knew about Ancestry DNA, but in my head and in my mind, I felt like they're not going to give me any information because I had been dealing with it my whole life. I had no idea people showed up on Ancestry. I had no idea. And that is how I found my mother. Yeah. So at 51 years old, I found my mom. And I will make a different video regarding that part because that's going to be sort of long. But so I found my mom. 2 days later, after I found my mom, she told me who my dad was, and I found my dad. And about 6 months after that, no, maybe 4 months after I found my dad, who I thought was my dad, I did a DNA test. It was not my dad. Yeah. So then I had to go back to the drawing board and start looking again to find out who my father was. And needless to say, because I'm good at what I do, I did find my biological father side of the family, which was amazing. So now I knew my mother's side and my father's side. And so um, we'll back it up a little bit. So once I went through my divorce, and this was before I found my father, that was really hard. It was hard to go through. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And I'll do a separate video on that. But what I didn't know is going through that divorce, I ended up like going through a whole like spiritual journey. Like a whole spiritual journey, and I didn't even know I was in the spiritual journey. And I know if anyone has been through a spiritual wake up call in the dark night of the soul, you know what I'm talking about. You don't know you in it. You just go through a whole lot of changes and things like that. So that's a whole nother video too. That's another video. But as time went on and this current year, no, last year, as time went on and I was sitting here and I was thanking God for all of the blessings and all of the things that I had been through in my life, and He got me through it. And even though I was still going through spiritual journeys. So even though it seems like I'm still getting wake up calls and still going through it a little bit, but nothing like it was before. So I just started thanking God, and just I thought about it. I'm like, wow, I actually was able, after all of this time, to find my mother. She's still alive. Find my father, but he wasn't alive, you know. And but I was able to find both sides of the family. I found a father that wasn't mine. And anybody that has been adopted, they'll tell you. Usually when people are adopted, those parents, they're not checking on them. They're not looking for them. They don't even want to be bothered, because a lot of times it's been this big old secret that nobody wants to talk about. So how was it that I found 3 families that welcomed me with open arms? Like, really, like, welcome me, no questions asked. I'm the one that started asking for the DNA test because I had to be sure after all this time. But with them, they were like, no, we know you are niece. And it was just like a beautiful thing. So I had to really thank God and ask Him, like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Because I didn't really have a clue. And I think most of us don't really have a clue what we're really meant to do. We do our job, we do, we take care of our kids, we become wives, we become, girlfriends, whatever. But do we really know what we are supposed to do? Because it's bigger than that. And so while I'm talking to God and asking Him, what am I really supposed to do and how can I give back? What am I supposed to do? I want to give back some kind of way because I was blessed so much. And I know this is going to sound weird, but like, I have good intuition and I'm always a truth seeker. So what happened was, it was almost like, if anybody knows anything about intuition, it's just comes up in your head. It comes up in your head, but it's like God spoke to me, but it comes up in your head as the intuition or whatever. And I heard astrology. Now, I went to the bookstore because about a couple of years back, my intuition would talk to me and I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't listen. My intuition would tell me, grab a coat before you leave. I'll leave the coat right there, and then I'm going outside and it's raining. So I had promised myself like a couple of years back that when stuff like that comes in my head and tells me stuff that I need to listen. So I started paying more attention to my intuition. And so I went and got the astrology book. Well, after I bought the astrology book and I'm reading it, I'm, you know, all of this time, because I grew up in church, and astrology and just different things were always bad things. People didn't know, if you go to church, you don't talk about astrology. That's an evil thing. That's no good. So, only reason I got this book is because when I asked God, He told me, and I know He told me. And so, what happened? Oh, well, I went and I got the book. As I started reading the book, I started seeing that it was more than just my sun sign and my it was more than just my sun sign, basically, because that's all I used to read was, I'm a Capricorn. Let me see what they're talking about with Capricorn. I would read just the Capricorn stuff. And so, come to find out, it was a whole natal chart. It was a whole natal chart. Like, when I say a whole natal chart, a whole natal chart. So I started getting more and more into it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this YouTube channel, because it was so many people that I watched on YouTube to get information regarding astrology. And you come across some people and they're okay, but then you come across some great people that know exactly what they're talking about, and they help you so much. So the more I got into it, I bought the astrology software. I really got into it. Well, as some time went on and I really figured out what you know, he said astrology, let me see what that means. Come to find out, your natal chart is almost like your map to your entire life. Like, seriously, it's your entire life story in your natal chart. I found out, and this is what was weird to me, because I had no idea. And I don't know if a lot of people do understand how important astrology is, because, we've been told it's evil, it's this, it's that, but no. It's one of those things where, because it is your life map, it actually helps you live better. It almost gives you a heads up to what's going on. What is the moon doing? And I'm not going to get deep into that, but what I will tell you is, in my chart, my whole entire life was there. When I read my chart, it told me exactly who I was. It told me that my mother and father would not be together. It told me that I would not live with my biological family, so that was my adoption. It told me, what else? It told me about my children. And then, as I got better, any and every important date that I ran against my birth chart, I could see exactly what happened. From my marriage, you can see your husband. You, when I tell you, everything is in there, and we'll get more into detail about the natal chart and how important it is. But it's so many tools that basically we have that a lot of people don't take advantage of. They don't use them, and they're so very important, because the one thing that we have is our mind, and different things that we can go through in life will hurt us, basically, if you know what I mean. You can go through mental breakdowns, just, we go through a lot. we go through a lot in this life. And your natal chart tells you exactly what you're going to go through. So, how my natal chart helps me is because it gives me a heads up. I know now when I'm gonna go through some rough times, and when when everything is gonna be looking good, it's perfect. I know when to do a lot of things that we guess about, when you shouldn't have to guess about certain things. You should not, especially if you are like me and you are adopted, even if your parents are gone and you can't find them, just even that little bit of information that you can get out of your natal chart to tell you what type of parents you had and things like that. That's important. That would have gave me a little bit more understanding, growing up. And you growing up, you a kid, you crying, you don't know why you were adopted, you don't know what was wrong with you, on why they didn't want you. You don't know what happens until you get the information. But if you can look in your chart and find out information regarding things like that, it does help you. So I've been on here a while now, running my mouth. I don't know what this video is actually doing at this point. I really don't, because it's my first video, and like I said, I'm very nervous doing it. I felt a little bit more comfortable though, so I will tell you guys that. But like, subscribe, follow me. We will be talking about different stuff that we go through in life. A lot of it I will direct it back to me. I will talk about things like that, and if there's some stuff that you guys want to talk about, leave it in the comments and share it with your friends, or share it with someone if they are adopted, or if they've been divorced, or parenting, or spiritual awakenings, things like that. We'll talk about the natal chart for sure, because it is a tool that everybody should be using. Everybody should be using, especially with what we're facing right now in this world. This is a year 9. So we'll talk about numerology a little bit too. But, we're in a year 9. And as you can see, this is the year of the snake. So the layers are being pulled back as we speak. You see it, look around, see what's going on. So things like that, and all of those things going hand in hand with each other. But there's one thing that I do know, is that God did not put us here. God did not put us here on this earth without every single thing that we need, from food to everything else. So I will say that. And I'm going to say one other thing, because I notice, when people, they hear us, if they will hear astrology and they'll hear God, and they'll get in these comments. So I'm going to say this on this very first video. Please be respectful, and please understand that God is one entity and the church is another entity. I know we try to put them together, and they can go hand in hand. But if I can never go to church and I'm stuck in this bed, I can still have a relationship with God. So it's two separate entities. So with that being said, please like, subscribe if this is your thing. If it's not, then thanks for tuning in this time. And that's all I got. Thank you guys.